Hello, science students. Let's talk a little bit about the Acceleration Master activity for this week, which is our module number 7 week. This week, we're learning all about acceleration, which is any change in velocity. Your master activity, you're going to do a little bit of math to kind of do what I would call kind of a demonstration experiment and show whether or not you think a claim written by a company is true or false. Okay, so first, here's the Acceleration Master activity. Obviously, this window is way too small, so let's go ahead and open up the document by clicking on the blue link. Reminder, though, once you finish typing it up, you do need to come back to this page and click Submit. If you've left this page open for a while, you'll need to refresh it in order to submit it for sure. There should be a big old congratulations, you've submitted icon over here or right underneath this title, so you can always double check to make sure it's been turned in. Okay, so here is the master activity, and you can kind of see here that it has a lot of different things going on, which is great. We have part 1, and then which is kind of practice. Part 2, where we deal with the company's claim, and then part 3, where you look at a little bit of data, and then you're going to write a claim of your own, whether you think they're right or wrong. Okay, so let's go through the steps. For doing one of these, it's going to be the same. Part 1 and part 2 are basically the same, except part 1, you're kind of trying it for the first time. So let's do this. Let's say that instead of 6 meters per second, because I don't want to do the math for you, let's go ahead and say that they said that it was, let's go with 20. Okay, so let's say that both of these are actually 20. Yours will be 6, and then I believe 10 on the next page. Okay, or 12, I believe, actually. We're going to use that the acceleration to gravity is 10 meters per second per second. The velocity, like we said, is 20 meters per second. So we have a cell phone moving at 20 meters per second when it hits the ground. And it was not moving that fast because it was dropped from rest. And we want to figure out how much time it would take for it to speed up to 20 meters per second. So we know that acceleration is equal to change in velocity over time. We also know the change in velocity, or final minus initial velocity, is equal to the acceleration times the time. Okay. In this case, it's a little bit different. So we know our change in velocity is 20 because we went from 0 to 20. So our final was 20, our initial was 10, and our acceleration is 10. So we're going to have to divide 20 by 10 to get the time. So time equals 20 divided by 10, which makes sense, because every second we can speed up by 10 meters per second per second. If we're all the way up to 20, that means it took us 2 full seconds to do that. So you'd show that work in this box right here. Okay? Now, so we have figured out that it takes 2 seconds to speed up from rest while falling to a speed of 20 meters per second. And now here's part 2. So part 2 says now that we know that it takes a certain amount of time to fall that distance, how do we figure out the distance that it actually fell? Because we don't know how far it fell, we just know that it sped up from 0 to 20. So to do that, we've kind of given you a little bit of a leg up here. We've given you a calculator, but the equation for that is the distance that something has fallen from rest is equal to 1/2 acceleration times time squared. So if you want to just plug those numbers in, you can. Alternatively, you can open this document right here. You'll have to make a copy of the document, and then you'll have access to this little calculator. So we said that our acceleration was 10. I can put 10 into that box. We said that the time to speed up to 20 is 2 seconds. When we plug those in, the calculator will do that for me. So it says that we would actually fall a distance of 20 meters. So it would have to be dropped from a really great height to get it to a speed of 20 meters per second. It will not always be these two multiplied together, but when this is squared and then divided by 2, it ends up kind of being a wash. So you got to be careful to type those in. Okay, so that's how you find those values. Then you'll get to part 2. In part 2, you'll do the same thing, but for a different speed. This time, the phone case company is claiming that it can protect your phone from that height. And then you're going to read some data. So they did some drop tests at different heights. You're going to use that data in addition to their claim up here, which is how far it can fall before it gets broken. And then you're going to write your own claims saying whether or not you think the company is telling the truth when they say that their phone case can protect your phone even if it's moving at 12 meters per second when it hits the ground. Okay, if you have any questions about this, make sure to send an email, send a message through Canvas. Hopefully that's enough to kind of get you guys started and figure out whether or not the cell phone case can truly protect it. Okay, nice job, and good luck on this mastery activity.